Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who dropped the ball at the 1 yard line. Kyle, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. Interesting day of football, a lot of drama, and I think our playoff picture is just about clear now.
It does feel like we have the 14 teams, right? I think there's still some question of like, could Seattle get in? Could Arizona get in? And like maybe could Atlanta get in? But like it feels like we probably have those 7 teams.
I think 15 of the 14 is basically what I'm looking at. It's down to Seattle and Los Angeles at this point. AFC picture, I think, is pretty well clear. I guess maybe you could say like Arizona or like something like that can challenge Washington, but it seems unlikely at this point.
Yeah, I think, Arizona still has a chance at the division because they play the Rams. So they could, if they win out, they have that. And then Atlanta plays the Commanders. So it's like if they can win that game and win out, then they could get the 7th seed. But it's, again, part of it is those teams would have to then win those games. So that's part of the issue. But I agree a lot. I don't know. I gotta be honest. I was kind of hoping for maybe more chaos here. It feels like we got things wrapped up.
Yeah, it feels... It is a little bit of a boring end to the season. I mean, the only thing really left, it seems like at this point, is seeding. And even seeding wise, like the Broncos and Chargers play, that's probably going to be for the 6th seed. And then you're looking at like the Eagles and Lions is just basically going to come down to how the Lions finish the season. I mean, there's not really anything else that's really up for grabs at that point, it feels like.
Yeah, well, there is the Vikings played the Lions the last game of the season. That could be
the NFC North. Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the other thing. So there's still some stuff, but yeah, let's get into it. Let's start off with the Packers playing the Seahawks, who, I mean, a tough loss for Seattle, who did not need to win this game. This was kind of a scheduled loss, but they didn't. It was weird. I mean, the Geno Smith thing just is the biggest deal, right? If Geno Smith is out for an extended period of time, Seattle is in serious trouble. And that could be Arizona's way in if Seattle then falls off, if Arizona can, pick up their wins. But, it was frustrating watching because you're thinking like, can Seattle make a game of this and just drive after drive? They get this big defensive stop only for Sam Howell to be Sam Howell.
Yeah. If there was a sack to be had, Sam Howell found it. That's for sure. He loves taking some hits. He's a football guy for sure. I mean, once he came into the game, this was pretty much over. The interesting thing to me was, like, I don't want to speculate on injuries too much because you just never actually know what's going on. But, like, Geno seemed to be walking pretty fine on the sideline. Do you think at some point they were just like, it's like 20-3 at this point. Let's just, I think that was the point where he got hurt. Yeah. It was like 20-3 at this point. Let's just regroup and try and, like, finish the season strong. Because, like you said, they didn't really need this game, even though it would have been nice to have.
I don't know. I just don't think they would do that because, like, it's weird where as of right now that last game of the season could be for the the tiebreaker between the Seahawks and the Rams is so bizarre where as of right now if Seattle wins that final game of the season it would come down to strength of schedule, so it's just like who knows who, and it's like really close between them, so who knows who would get it. I think getting another win would give them that cushion of don't have to worry about a tiebreaker going wrong. So I don't think so. I think he was hurt enough that they didn't want to risk him playing. I think if this is the playoff game, maybe he goes in, but like I don't think that this was like let's just play for next week.
Yeah, that's probably the right answer. But it definitely should change this game a little bit. I didn't think the Packers looked very great in the second half, honestly, but they did enough. I thought Jordan Love played well in this game. I thought they called a terrific game. Kudos all around for the Packers who went into Seattle and looked very good, I thought, in that situation where there was a lot of Packers fans, weirdly. That was a bizarre thing, too. But yeah, I thought it was...
Can I get a pet peeve about this? This is probably come from being a Tampa Bay Rays fan. Can we stop saying they travel well? No, Packers fans are everywhere. Packers fans live in... They're not traveling across the country for a game against the Seahawks in the middle of the season. They live there.
Yeah, that's probably the right answer. I don't know. The interesting thing is, though, is that like that Seattle home field was always such a big deal, and they just didn't have it this game. It was all Packers fans. It's weird. Anyway, but Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see on Seattle. Like I said, their season. I don't think we could tell the story on their season till the end of this. Like their last 2 weeks are basically defining their season. They got a tough Minnesota next week. They got the Bears. They got the Rams on the road. Both of those games to end the year. I do feel like this is a Packers conversation to have because this was an impressive win against a team battling for a playoff spot. We talked about it a lot last week. Basically, their 4 losses are to the Lions, the Eagles, the Vikings, and who's the other team that they lost to? The Lions again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've lost to basically the other 3 best teams in the NFC. They got to win against a team battling for a playoff spot. Where do you evaluate this team at this point, seeing this kind of performance?
Well, first, I'll just answer a super chat real quick. We have Joe with the super chat. Says, evening, fellas. I picked each game for the week, and so far only got 4 wrong. I picked the 49ers, Chargers, Lions, and Panthers. How'd I stack up against y'all? I think right around the same, right? I think that's right around where we were.
Yeah, that's probably that sounds about right.
Actually,
I picked the Rams, didn't I? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think not the exact same games. I think we were, I think I got another one wrong somewhere. But anyway, so the question is, how do we feel with the Packers heading into the playoffs? I mean, I think really good. Like, I think that there is it's so fascinating the way that like I just feel like there's so many really good teams in the NFC. Like every team in the NFC is the team you don't want to play. Right? Like there's no team that you're sitting here. I guess like maybe Washington, I guess, because their defense isn't that good. But Washington is a good team. Like all these 7 teams that are looking to make the playoffs, like are teams you don't want to play.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a good point because we're going to have a Tampa conversation here in a second. And, every one of these teams looks like they're going to be really tough. So it's 1 through 7, maybe 8 even really strong. And, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a bloodbath. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think the Packers are right there in the mix. Excuse me. I think the one conversation we have to have about the Packers against the very best teams is like, can this team be explosive enough in some of these games? I think we've seen it in like, sometimes your defense is going to fail. And we saw it from Buffalo where they were able to score points. Detroit's been able to do it. I think even Philly showed some things in past games, even if they haven't been explosive as those teams. And I just think like offense is really running the NFL right now. Like the best teams in the NFL are offensive based right now, by far, I think, in my opinion. And I just think you need to show the ability to put up points in a hurry. And I just don't know if we've seen that enough for Green Bay to be fully bought in, but I think they're really good.
Yeah, I mean, we saw them kind of do it in the first. I mean, I know the first half was a lot of Josh Jacobs, but like, I agree, this team definitely cooled off. But like, let's not forget, like, they started off red hot. Like, they were going to have to cool off at some point because of how well they started, right?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely slowed down. But yeah, it was a good performance, and I think that they checked all their boxes in this week, and we'll see how it goes going forward.
Yeah. No, I think the Packers are, again, it's like I feel like every time we're gonna talk about the Packers, I'm like, this team is great, and then we talk about the Vikings, I'm like, this team is great. Like there's so many good teams.
It really is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on, Kyle. Let's go to Bills Lions, which was I think a surprising game. It was crazy because so we're talking about the Bills, and I was like, this defense, I'm concerned about it going into this game. You have Jared Goff and this Lions team, and like those concerns were valid. This Lions offense was great, but they like had back-to-back like punts, and that was just it. Like that, they couldn't overcome that because the Bills offense and Josh Allen is just playing at such a high level right now.
Yeah, Josh Allen was the best player on the field in this game. He was incredible.
He was the best player on the planet in this game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly. I mean, he was amazing in this game. He did everything he had to do and more. They scored 48 points, 40 in back-to-back weeks now. They win a shootout and lose a shootout. And yeah, I mean, look, I think when it came to both of these teams watching this game, because, Jared Goff was also pretty terrific in this game.
Was this his best game
of his career? I was thinking that when watching it, honestly.
Yeah, he was great. And he was like making plays with his legs. Like he was like doing all this stuff.
They also like couldn't run the ball. Like they just couldn't.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the shocking thing is they were able to slow down the run game. And Jared Goff he had 3 or 4 throws that it's like, wow, that's a window that he fitted in. And that, I was thinking it was one of the best games of his career too. But yeah, I look at both of these teams kind of in the same vein. Like, yes, there are concerns at this point. You know, the Lions are just decimated with injuries. Ali McNeil and Carlton Davis are now. Dan Campbell said he thinks they're both going to be out for the season, which is massive on top of all their other injuries. They may get a few guys back. They talked about it on the broadcast. Anzalone might come back. Maybe Aiden Hutchinson's back for late in the playoffs, but that seems like a stretch. But anyway, there are concerns equally valid for both of these defenses at this point against really good offenses. But these two teams are the best offenses in football right now. So, you know, they may be able to score with anybody as it is. And I look at this season and like we have a lot of really great teams. We just discussed that. Great teams across the NFL, especially there's 7 good NFC teams, it feels like. There is probably 3 or 4 really good AFC teams. And they're all kind of flawed, though. I think they're all kind of flawed. And so, yeah, I'm worried about both of these defenses, but these offenses are probably the best units in any matchup these two teams are going to play outside of each other in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Bills now have beaten the Lions and the Chiefs this season. That's a pretty impressive resume. I do think though, like it's both. These offenses mean that there's no game you could sit here and say they don't have a chance. If they're down 21 points at the half, you're still like, yeah, they could do this. They could come back. I do wonder though, like, could either of these defenses be the end of them? We've seen the Bills both these teams last season. That was the issue. Their defense couldn't get stops in key spots, and they lost playoff games to teams that went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a huge question. It is going to be a huge question because I think the Lions, like, you know, the injuries are unfortunate, but everybody's kind of had injuries, and they have to find a way to overcome it. And I mean, it's mounting now to the point that it's concerning. And then the Bills have also had injuries. You know, Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin, Rasul Douglas were all out of this game, although a couple of those guys didn't really help last week, so we'll see. So yeah, I think it's all going to come down to can they manufacture stops? But the big thing when you play these two teams is like you saw it in this game, like one stop may win you a game because of the way these two quarterbacks are playing, these two offenses are running, and I think that's just a huge factor in this thing. I mean, Josh Allen, the last 2 weeks, I mean, this is special stuff these last 2 weeks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this is maybe some of the best quarterback play we've ever seen the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about, like, the knock of Josh Allen is, like, Mahomes does this, like, just more consistently than Allen does. But, like, and he hasn't this season, but they kind of have different roles in their offenses. Like, but, like, I think we've always said Josh Allen at his best is, if not the best quarterback in the league, just the second best. And I think usually on his on days, I'll take him over anybody. Like, it feels like every quarterback has great days, but it doesn't feel like Allen and Mahomes, like those two guys, when they have their great days, it's just like, how can you even compete?
Yeah. It's a unguardable aspect of the two of them that like it just feels different. Like, you know, you saw it in this game too, where it's like they started doing those like pulling the tackle, pulling the guard plays for like those bootlegs, and it's like it felt like he could have got 30 yards if he didn't like stop short to like slide every time. He's just like, I'm going to get 30 yards in this play if I wanted to. And he just decided he didn't want to. I mean, it's just, there is an element to his game that feels unguardable. And Mahomes is the same way. And like, I think Burrow has some of that with his playmaking in the passing game, but it's just a different level of thing, man.
Yeah. The high degree difficulty plays Allen was making consistently was impressive. So I agree. I think both these teams are very good, but you do have to have those concerns because, again, if these are two teams that if they both lose in the conference championship game, we're saying what went wrong this season, not what a great run.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, I still think both teams have some flaws. I mean, all of these, I think all of the 11 teams that we categorize as good right now have flaws, but it's going to come down to, who can make the least mistakes in those biggest spots.
Speaking of mistakes, let's talk Colts Broncos here, Kyle. What even was this game, Kyle? The Denver Broncos get off to this bad start. Bo Nix did not play well in this game. He had a bizarre stat line of the 33 attempts, only 130 yards, but 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So a wild Bo Nix stat line. Anthony Richardson was making this wild stuff, but even, he had no touchdowns, 2 interceptions as well with a sub 50 completion percentage once again. But the Colts had this game looking pretty good. I want to say won, but in the second half, the Indianapolis Colts were up 6 points. Jonathan Taylor appears to have a touchdown. Turns out he dropped the ball at the 1 yard line, fumbles it out the back of the end zone. The Broncos get the ball at 20, now only down 6. Denver takes the lead. Later, when the Broncos were up 4 points, the Colts try this trick play where they pass it to Adonai Mitchell, who then supposed to pass it back to Anthony Richardson, and it gets intercepted in return for a touchdown by Nick Menino, who has another touchdown now on the year. It was both of these teams made so many mistakes. Like, I think Denver's a good team. Denver did not play their best football, and the Colts just couldn't get out of their own way.
You know what you probably should never do when you have a second-year quarterback who's struggling and a rookie wide receiver who's struggling? Run a double lateral pass with them.
Yes.
I think that's my opinion on football.
It's like I heard someone bring this up where it's like they have really bad chemistry already. Why are we having them throw it a second time now to each other? Like, I think they're already having a hard enough time with the first time.
And Mitchell's like bobbling the ball after he catches it on like the lateral, and like that's what happened. Like, it took him so long to like get it back to Richardson because he bobbled it and like couldn't get his grip. And like, I just I wouldn't call that play again this season. That's my opinion. Or maybe we do call it again,
in a 4-point game
again.
with the biggest game of the season is when they do this.
Yeah, you know who can run that? Tom Brady and Julian Edelman in a playoff game. You know why? Because they played together forever. That's okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that one. I'm not okay with these two running that play. But anyway, I think that was a mistake. The 1 yard line thing. So the first time somebody did this, how did it not stop permanently?
Right.
How have we not got it through ball carriers? So I remember way back when, I think this was 2007, 2008 timeframe, Jabbar Gaffney for the Texans. He threw excited, threw the ball at the wall behind the end zone, and he threw it from the 1 yard line, and it was a touchback. That was the first time I saw it. How was that not the end of players dropping the football not in the end zone? Like, I understand adrenaline's pumping, you're excited. Get 5 yards in the end zone and then drop the ball. What are you trying to showboat by? What is the reasoning for wanting to drop the ball early to begin with? Like, why?
Yeah, at least so this happened to the Bengals game as well. Bengals defensive player, at least with him, he's not used to carrying the ball, and he didn't drop. He was like trying to shift it into another hand to get ready to celebrate, and then like lost the handle on the ball and fumbled it out the back of the end. Still stupid, but like at least there's like I can logically understand how that happened. It must just be like there must just be like a mental thing about like, I don't know, like, oh, I you're here, like I don't know. Is it like you're happy to stop not having to run anymore and just drop the ball, not thinking about it?
I don't know. You literally dropped the ball in the game, dude. I don't get it. Like, why has this not been like, this should be taught? Like, we need to have drills about this. We should not be turning the ball over at the 1 yard line because we're dropping too early to celebrate. That's insane.
Just say like, hey, you have to hold on to the ball until after you get out of the back of the end zone. That's it. You can celebrate as much as you want. Hold on to the ball. Once you get into the end zone, then you can start celebrating. But celebrate with the ball.
Or you can. This is me, old man yelling at the cloud. You can celebrate after handing the ball to the ref nicely. That's a good idea.
Sure. Well, let's not get crazy here, Kyle.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, my goodness. Yeah, this game was a mess. Man, this Colts thing is so weird. Like, they need a quarterback next year, man. I'm out. I can't do it anymore. Like, it's just not working. Like, it's not sustainable. You can't consistently a 50% passing day like today. And by the way, I don't know why they're throwing the ball so much in this game when it was like 40-mile-an-hour winds at that stadium. Like, that also feels like a mistake for both of these teams. But anyway, a good day for Anthony Richardson now is completing the 50% of your passes. Like, I just don't see I don't see the development at this point. Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing is, can we just see a big jump from him? I guess in year 3, like the way we did Josh Allen. But like I'm with you. I think
Brian Daboll.
Yeah, well, there you go. But I mean, I think that's just it, right? That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, you have. I guess there is a case that he has the athleticism and the talent to do it, but like, I'm just not seeing it, man. And I just don't know how you can keep betting on this. Like, there's no semblance that this completion percentage thing is going to get better, and you can't excuse. Like, he has a great running back behind him. He has good receivers. We've seen all of these receivers on this team play well. We know this offensive line's good. So I don't. There's nothing else to blame at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they already tried to bench him, and then just Joe Flacco was so bad they had to go back to him.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm not seeing it, and I mean, at this point, the season's over. I mean, I legitimately think because I mean, the Chargers are going to win their last 2 games, even if they lose next week because they play the Raiders and Patriots. So, I mean, it's just going to come down. I mean, they're going to get 10 wins. So this is over. This is over for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean that's the pathway is go 3-0. Colts have a very easy schedule. Get the Chargers to lose one of those games that they should win. But I agree. I don't think it's going to happen. I think this sunk their chances, and they had it. They had the game won and just made too many blunders.
This was the biggest game of the season, and we saw a double lateral pass for a return for a touchdown.
And that was the second dumbest play of the game.
Yeah, and a guy dropped the ball at the 1-yard line.
Yeah.
Biggest game of the season. Unbelievable.
Anthony Richardson threw 2 interceptions. We're not even talking about that. Like, that's not even on our radar because of the other stuff.
Yeah. Tough game.
Well, let's talk about one that was very fun for one of the people on this show, Kyle. The Buccaneers going to Los Angeles, putting up 40 points on the team that was the number 1 scoring defense in the league. Now is not because they gave up 40 points. Kyle, I had fun in this game. This was a lot of fun for me. Mike Evans, now the 1,000-yard season is maybe a thing again with his 159-yard performance. Baker Mayfield, who did have an interception, but was pretty much perfect other than that, over 10 yards per attempt in this game. And the return of the Todd Bowles defense, shutting down the Chargers in the second half. Granted, Herbert was banged up. That definitely played a role. But yeah, this was a fun game for me, Kyle.
Yeah, I can imagine why. Very good performance, very good win. I mean, this Bucs team, man, like they had that middle of the season stretch where they got, beat up. And I mean, they competed in all those games, really, because even with all those injuries they were dealing with. I mean, look, this team has now beaten the Chargers, which is going to be a playoff team that we just talked about. The playoffs are basically locked up for them. They've beaten the Eagles, they've beaten the Lions, and they've beaten the Balls. Like, they have beaten very, very good teams at this point. They get an easy schedule down the stretch for a reason. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say this team can win a playoff game or two. Like, I don't know if they can make a run of the Super Bowl just because, like you said, the NFC is so difficult. But we've seen this team at its best, at healthy, compete with every other team in the league. I mean, they have gone up against the best of the best, and they have come out on top several times. They've beaten the 2 best teams in the NFC currently. They've beaten the 7 seed currently. They've competed with a team in Kansas City that only has 1 loss, and it came down to overtime without several of their key guys in that game. I just don't know what we can say about this team. What are we lacking from this team when they're not, except for health, to say this team can't win? And nobody's healthy at this point. We just talked about it with Detroit.
Yeah, and I actually think Tampa Bay's, they're all right. Like, they're missing both their safeties, but like they're all right now. I mean, you have the corners are healthy. Again, Godwin being out for the year, you're not getting him back, so I'm kind of just not even factoring that in. But like, I think this is kind of close to the best case scenario at this point. You just hope Winfield gets back for the playoffs. But I mean, I think the thing that still concerns me is it's just like, again, it looks like probably the first round matchup will be the Packers. Like, that's a tough draw for a 3 seed, having to play the 6 seeded Green Bay Packers this year. But also, like,
but every game's gonna be tough. Every playoff game's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I just feel like the Packers are a bit better than your average six seed is the way I see it. But you're right. Every game would be tough, and also just listen. This game was great. This Bucs defense still has had a very bad season. This was a great step in the right direction. But let's talk about the game itself a bit more. I mean, there was just so much. It was just one of those games where it's like everything went right. Like, every step of the way, everything went well. The defense played well. The running game was awesome. I mean, the difference in the run, like the Chargers had 32 rushing yards in this game. The team that's kind of built on the run. We have Joe with a super chat. This was a statement win for Tampa, in my opinion. I believe that in that LA defense, but Tampa's offense was really that good. They just have to be consistent. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is one of the biggest regular season wins in the Todd Bowles era, which is saying something because they beat the Lions this season, but this still might be number one.
Yeah. I mean, the way the offensive line really pushed guys around, I thought was impressive. Bucky Irving, Rachaad White had some great runs in this game, and then the Mike Evans of it all. And, not only that, I think the supporting cast is really bringing up too. I know Mike Evans was, the biggest part of the passing game, but we've seen Jalen McMillan with some huge plays the last 2 weeks, really stepping into that number 2 wide receiver role at this point. We've seen Bucky Irving in the backfield constantly have some big play up his sleeves. I mean, he had 8 yards per carry in this game. So yeah, I think it all clicked in this game. I think everything offensively was, an A+ across the board. I thought offensive line A+, running game A+, Baker Mayfield A+, receiving game A+. So I thought it was all really impressive from this group.
Let's do the other side. 2 teams played in this game. Kyle, this Chargers team now, which is the team that we were talking about I think we were talking like them or the Steelers. Who do you have for like the third, 4th best team in the AFC earlier this year? They're currently favored to beat the Broncos next week. I think that's a bit optimistic. This is a team that's struggled in certain games, and I think has not looked quite the same this second half of the season. I mean, the Chiefs game was weird. Chiefs play weird games. Like that Falcons game, really, the Chargers didn't play great in that game. That was kind of Cousins consistently turning the ball over. I think that, and this is a game that I think is maybe concerned you if you're a Chargers fan of you go up against a top tier talent. Coaching can only do so much for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They're a well-coached team, but I think it's a flawed team. I mean, I really do think that's what it is. I think even this defense has some holes in it, despite all the good players that they brought in some really good players, I think, overall, and they've turned this defense around. I still think there are some holes in this defense that a good offense can go after. And then, I mean, without J.K. Dobbins out there, we've just seen there's just a lack of explosiveness, it feels like, in this offense. They just don't have the guys right now. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, this offense is not this is not an NFL playoff offense, and that's what's ultimately going to doom them. I think Ladd McConkey had more good moments in this game coming back from injury. They've had this Stone Smart show up and have some moments. Quentin Johnson, like we said, it hasn't been perfect, but I think it's been a little bit of a resurgent year to where you can feel a little bit better about that draft pick, not compared to the receivers around him, just that, he's playable at this point. Mm-hmm. And like those are building blocks, maybe, sure. You have the framework of what you want this team to be. You have an identity. You have an offensive line that you've really built up too. But now you need playmakers. This team really needs a number 1 playmaker to make a difference. And we just haven't it's been noticeable that they don't have one.
Yeah, I mean, like, because the Chargers, it looked like it was going to be a shootout. In fact, I thought, like, oh man, I don't know if this Buccaneers defense is going to be able to compete with the Chargers offense in this game, because the Chargers scored 17 points on their first 3 possessions. They didn't score for the rest of the game. And a big part of it was Tampa Bay just saying, let's man up, play man coverage, and they can't win their one-on-ones. Hard to win football hard to win these kind of games if you're the Chargers when you can't do that. So disappointing loss for them, but really good, fun time, Kyle.
Yeah, I can imagine you had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is good. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's go to let's go. How about Dolphins Texans? Because this was another game that was a really important game. The Texans, let's start with the positive. The sky was falling in Houston. What's going on with Houston? The Texans aren't good anymore. All of a sudden, they've clinched the division and things feel a little better for them. Now, I still think you would like a little bit more consistency out of the offense. There was some very good plays, including both of Nico Collins' touchdowns. He had one of the more impactful 17-yard receiving days you'll see. But, the passing game still needs some work. But, very good defensive performance here from Houston to be able to, clinch the division.
Yeah. I don't know what happened during that 2-week stretch of playing Tennessee and Jacksonville. Like, I don't know why, like, this defense decided not to show up against Will Levis and Mac Jones, but then shut down Tua. But this was a return to form for this defense for sure. I thought they looked really good. They caused a lot of problems in this game. And, I think this was a big letdown for a Miami team that had been rolling a little bit. They looked pretty terrible in this game, honestly. And I think the Texans defense caused a lot of problems. They made a great play on the outside for that interception for the third one, and then they just made a lot of plays in this game. And I think it was a big return to form for the defense that at least you can feel better about that because the defense is better. There's still issues with the offense. What we're seeing, it's another one where it's just not very explosive right now. And as I think offense is running the NFL, as I said earlier, I think that's kind of having them on the outside looking in of my Super Bowl contenders. But this was a good win.
Yeah, I think luckily for them, I think the wild card matchups feel easier, I guess, in the AFC. I mean, if you end up getting they could get Denver in the first round, the way Denver's schedule shapes up. So we'll see how that goes, but that makes it more possible. But yeah, I mean, Miami is kind of the story of this game. Like it's the Dolphins, right? They look so good in these big moments, and then they just have these awful performances. And like this is like Tua, who we kept hyping up as like he's playing really good since coming back from the injury. Like, this has been really good stuff from Tua. It's the kind of the tale as old as time now when the Dolphins play good teams. And I'm kind of more inclined to believe it's a good teams thing, not a cold weather thing. Like when they get off the rhythm, they just look like a completely different team.
Yeah. No, I think it's true at this point. I mean, we have to have a conversation about it. Like we had said he was playing his best ball of his career. And that was even like, the Packers game happened too. But you look at that Raiders game, the Patriots game. I mean, those are two of the worst teams in the league. And then this Jets team, which has been a mess all season. Those were his best games of the career thing. And then you look at the Packers and the Texans, and it's a completely different guy. So, yeah, I think it has to be a conversation this offseason. How do you fix this thing? How do you move forward? Because, I mean, it's a group that isn't really getting any younger across the board. I know they have young players in Achane and Jalen Waddle, who was a no-show in this game.
Well, he got banged up early on, so that's part of what. Yeah, but that's part of the problem too, right? It's like they almost need like everything to be perfect. It's like a house of cards. Like you take one thing off, and the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah. So I don't know. It feels like a bit of a lost season, and the season. I mean, it's not officially over, but like I said, I think when the Broncos take care of those last two games, it's basically all but, or the Chargers, sorry, take care of those last two games, it's basically all but over.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee they go 3-0 either. 49ers, Browns, and Jets. I mean, that's not a guaranteed 3-0 because they would need to go 3-0 to get in as well. So yeah, and again, someone brings up like, well, Texans defense is very good. That is true, but also this is not a take after one game. This has been a narrative now for a while with Miami.
Yeah, no, Texans defense has been very good. Like I said, I was judging it based off the Texans defense we saw the last 2 weeks against Tennessee and Jacksonville, where it started to seem like it was slipping, not the one that shut down some really good teams earlier in the season. This was a big return to form for them, and I thought the pass rush got after it. I thought they hit to a good amount, and then they made some plays in the secondary.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Let's talk some balls. Why don't we, Kyle? This was one of those games where like at halftime we're get how this game is going. The Commanders are up 17-0. Like, yep, got it. We all checked out of this game. All of a sudden, Spencer Rattler comes in, and this Saints comeback nearly happens. The Commanders have this weird situation where penalty knocks them out of field goal range. They get back in long field goal range to try and make it a 2-score game, but miss the field goal. The Saints get down to the 1-yard line. There was apparently there was I didn't fact check this. I saw this on Twitter that apparently there was an extra clock stoppage that shouldn't have happened in this game, which gave the Saints a chance to score a touchdown. They score a touchdown, go for two though, and don't get it. The Commanders survive, which is a huge. I mean, if they lost this game, it'd be tough for them. They're now in a much better chance to make the playoffs. But playing the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Cowboys game almost doesn't matter. They just, I mean, maybe it will, but they need to make sure that they can beat the Cowboys and beat the Falcons to get that 7 seed right here.
Yeah, they should be able to lock it up at this point. But this is kind of a weird team at this point, man. Like they look so good during an earlier stretch of the season, but like I don't know, like Jaden Daniels was 25 of 31, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 66 yards in this game. And they scored 20 points and scored 6 points in the second half. Like, I just think they're making way too many mistakes. There is a lot of penalties in this game. It feels like they've committed a lot of penalties lately. just too many mistakes across the board from the rest of the guys. Like I think Daniels is playing some really good football, and I think he's continued to play really well. But like he also took 8 sacks in this game. Like it just seems like they had the worst sack or the worst penalty at the worst time of the game, and even on defense too. Like it felt like they had this kind of wrapped up, and then it would be like a penalty prolongs the Saints drive, and they keep going. And like I just think there's a lot of like there needs to be more accountability for some of those mistakes if this team wants to win in the playoffs or compete in the playoffs. Because, I know that they, record-wise, they are better than Tampa Bay and Los Angeles and Seattle, obviously, because they're ahead in the standings. But, like, would you take this team over either of those 3 teams right now? Or at least the 2 in the playoffs?
I wouldn't. No, I think like out of the teams circling the play, you should have brought up like there's 15 teams that are probably gonna 14 of which are probably gonna make the playoffs. I think like the Rams, Seahawks, and Buccaneers I think would be favored over Washington right now. Like Washington just hasn't. I mean, the thing is, I still think Jaden Daniels is really good. I still think this offense, like some of the throws he was making to Terry McLaurin to get them that big lead, was incredible. I still just think that they're not. It's kind of similar to the Chargers in a sense of like there are these issues that in the preseason we're like these are going to be issues, and then in the regular season like it didn't become as big of an issue, so we were kind of like, oh hey, look, this is fun. But like no, the defense is still an issue. It's been an issue all season. It's still an issue.
Yeah, and I think they're getting the maximum they can out of it with their coaching. I think that Dan Quinn has done a good job with trying with this defense to make it as competitive as possible, but at the same time, like talent is talent. And they just don't have it. Like they have a couple guys that Bobby Wagner's still having a very good season. I think, there are a couple guys on this team that I think are having good seasons, but there's just not the top end talent you really need for this defense to kind of make a difference at key positions.
Yeah, Kyle, maybe the Saints quarterback competition midweek in week 15 didn't work out so well.
How wild is it to say you're having a quarterback competition all week and then immediately change?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it kind of makes sense though. What did Jake Hayner do in practice?
Yeah,
in his like 1.5 days of first team reps before they announced that they were going to go with him.
Cedric Wilson has more touchdowns than him this season, passing. He had a 21-yard touchdown in this game.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a problem. He wasn't good. I thought Rattler played okay. He's gonna be an interesting guy for them, I think, next season. Like I think there's a chance he might play.
I don't know. I just think we can get into it. We'll get too lost in the weeds of if Spencer Rattler will play or not. But I don't know. I still think Derek Carr, like the contract is the contract. If they'll have to work a way out of it if they're gonna move off of it.
Well, they could just pull a Russell Wilson and try and cut their costs.
I think they could. That is possible. We'll see if they do. The Saints aren't one for saying, let's just eat some dead cap. That's not usually what they do. In fact, I actually don't think they can do that. I think, like, mathematically, I don't think it would work. Like, the cap still is a thing that we have to navigate. I know that they do a great job of working around it. But, like, adding a $90 million to it, I don't know if that could make it happen.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure they'll figure it out.
I'm sure they will as well. But we'll talk about that in the offseason. Hey, for Washington, I don't know. Win another game, they're probably in the playoffs. You feel good about yourself, right?
Yeah, I think you at least feel good about the season. This season's still a success.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about this team as far as, like, can they compete in a competitive NFC? And they're 7 out of 7. But, like, this was still a very successful season, and you should feel good about it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go Steelers, Eagles. We build this game as if there were to be like an alien invasion happening at the stadium. This is the stadium we would want because of how tough everyone playing in this game and watching this game is. As expected, the Philadelphia Eagles were able to, again, another really good defensive performance, which was kind of expected. We also saw the kind of return of Jalen Hurts, I guess. Like the passing offense went well again. AJ Brown, of course, it was going to go one of two directions, right? Either AJ Brown was going to get no catches, or he was going to have 110 and a touchdown. Devonta Smith 109 yards and a touchdown. So passing offense working really well. Saquon did get bottled up, but that didn't help them. Only helps you so much when that opens the door for the passing attack. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, another really well-rounded victory by the Eagles.
Very well-rounded victory. I thought they did a really good job in this game. I think the big thing was this offense and what we saw in this game because, the Steelers basically all but dared him to play one-on-one on the outside. And Jalen Hurts made the throws. We hadn't seen that consistently from Jalen Hurts this season, and I thought he played a terrific game, one of his better games of the season, hitting Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown in those coverage situations. And those guys made big plays because they're good playmakers. And so I just think you saw finally, like, just how difficult it can be to play this Philadelphia team when all these guys are on the field because, like, Devontae Smith is a great player. A.J. Brown is a great player. Saquon Barkley obviously is a fantastic player. And when Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball like this, and, he wasn't as impactful in the running game this week as last week, but it felt like every time they needed a run, he had one. They were able to do just enough in this game to get it done against a tough Steelers defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is very good. Let's talk about the Steelers. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about the Steelers team because I've been higher on the Steelers this season than you have. I still like them, I think, next week against the Ravens, but like I think it's fair to say, well, I probably still view the Steelers as like I think in the AFC, I think the Bills and the Chiefs are to me clear the top two teams. I think it's fair to say the Steelers are number 3, but like and if I'm talking who do I think has the best chance to win a Super Bowl in the AFC, I still think there's probably other teams I would maybe put ahead of them just because like,
Just say Baltimore. Just say Baltimore.
Yes, Baltimore is the other team. I think Baltimore probably has the higher ceiling because the Steelers, they weren't able to get explosives in this game. And how are they going to get explosives against, we talked about heading into this game, how can they get explosives against this defense? They weren't able to. And if they can't get explosives, like, I just think they can't really win.
Well, their explosive play option is George Pickens. And
that's fair.
Like, not having him again obviously changes the offense.
Mm-hmm.
However, we've had our opinions on one-man dependency offenses before. Like, it's not someone you want to be because, guys get hurt.
Right.
And so I just think that that is the big thing. You give them the benefit of the doubt because I do think this offense is obviously significantly better when he plays, but it's always been kind of the Pittsburgh thing all season. It seems like that they have the training wheels on, it feels like, for the first half, and then they let it uncork a little bit in the second half to try and get some things going. Now they got shut out in the second half of this game, so that wasn't necessarily the case. It didn't happen for them without their star receiver, but what I've said it twice now in this podcast, I'll say it again. I think offense is running the NFL right now, and while this Steelers defense is probably for the teams that I think can win the Super Bowl or like have a shot at making a run, like this Steelers defense is the toughest defense that anyone's going to have to face. It is a good defense. And if you're going to tell me the Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, Ravens, Lions, Eagles, Packers, Vikings, Buccaneers, like this is probably the best defense of that group. I think it is. I think it's the best defense of that group. But that being said, it's by far the worst offense, and I just think that like even a good defense is going to struggle to stop a guy like Jalen Hurts, or even a good defense at this point is going to struggle to stop a guy like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I know they've had their success with Lamar Jackson. Do not comment about me about Lamar Jackson's record against the Steelers. I get it. It's still going to be tough in the playoffs. It's not an easy thing to do. So I think that's a bit of a problem if you're looking at the Steelers as a contender.
Yeah, I think it's just like the Steelers to me are a lot more interesting this year because it feels like they're still the same kind of team they've been the past 5 years, just like a better version of that team. But I still feel like that kind of team maybe doesn't go on deep playoff runs, and we'll see if this is an exception. But again, I'm also possibly overreacting to the Eagles are a very good team, as someone brought up in the chat. The Eagles got the ball with over 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter and ran out the clock. That they ended the game without giving the ball back. I mean, the Eagles are very good, so it's perhaps an overreaction, but I do think it's fair to question this against a defense like this.
They had 163 yards of offense. Like that's just
yeah.
I mean, I know the play discrepancy and the time of possession discrepancy, but like part of that is you can't really convert things. Like they were 3-10 on third down for a reason. So yeah, I just think like it's going to come down to like they really need Russell Wilson to make 5 great throws a game in the playoffs. That's probably their pathway is like they're going to defend, they're going to try and bottle these teams up, and then Russell Wilson has to make 3 or 4 great plays. And, I think he's done it at times this season, and I think he's done it with Pickens in the lineup, but it's still a tall task, I think, at this point when, I think that they're undermanned on the offensive side.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's go to Rams Niners. The Rams had a great week. This was the Thursday game, a bizarre game. We do all this preview stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, pouring rain, and then everything's thrown out the window. It's a whole new game. But the Rams are able to, win this game. Purdy did not play. I mean, neither quarterback played well, but like at the same time, it was going to be impossible for them to play well, right? Like the weather conditions were an issue. I still thought Purdy, like the interception at the end, was a pretty big blunder, and that essentially cost them the game. It was, I don't know. Everyone's complaining about this game. Kyle, I like this game. I like watching close football. I don't need a high scoring game. I'd rather watch a 1-score game like this than watch the Bills Lions, which has all this action, but it's a one-sided affair the whole time.
Yeah. It had intrigue to it for sure. I think that there was elements to it that were interesting. Apparently Puka Nacua is the only guy who can catch the ball in the rain. So there was that. I did not love it from my fantasy perspective when I didn't check the weather report before the game and started Juwan Jennings and Cooper Kupp in a playoff game.
Oh no.
But that didn't work out for me.
Did you survive the week, or was that it?
I'm probably going to lose. I'm winning by 24, but I have like Minnesota's defense, and I think he has 3 Falcons players, which is just absurd.
Well, you have a chance. If it's 3 Falcons players, you don't never say never.
Yeah, he's got Cousins, Mooney, and London. So we'll see. Need the Raiders to step up. Big Raiders win. Here we go. I believe
Max Crosby was holding them back. Maybe without him, they'll be able to really flourish.
Oh yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, look, I think the tough thing with this game is just like it's clear. Like, I think the defense has played well, but I also think like the element of the weather changes so much where it's like I don't even want to say it's like great defensive play. It's just like everybody dropped the ball except for Puka Nacua.
Even Stafford throws one directly at Hufanga, who drops it because like the defenders can't catch it either.
Yeah, it's just like, I think that's the tough part about this game is like I don't even know what to take away from the Rams in this game because like I don't even want to say like this was a huge step up for their defense because like Brock Purdy and his small hands cannot throw the ball in this storm.
Here's what I'll say. I think in games like this, we have a super chat. Debo did say he wasn't struggling. Yes, Debo Samuel dropped a key pass here after that whole controversy. I thought this was a very good Sean McVay game. I think Sean McVay has been really impressive these past couple games. Like, it's a weird game, and I think sometimes in weird games, coaching like ends up mattering and being able to, I think Sean McVay outcoached Kyle Shanahan, a guy who I'm a big fan of. I think McVay had some really good calls here. So like, coaching matters, offensive play calling matters, and they were able to do some nice stuff in a game that was never going to be high scoring.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention, like, they end this game with the fourth quarter. Granted, it was all field goals, but, like, they end this game in the fourth quarter with a 17-play, 65-yard drive that went almost 10 minutes for a field goal to tie a game at 6. They get the punt, 5-play, 59-yard drive for a field goal to make it 9-6. Interception by Purdy. Then a 13-play, 69-yard drive, very nice. 4 minutes and 56 seconds for a field goal to make it 12-6. Like, They figured something out at the end of this game to be able to finish. They didn't finish those drives, but like they figured something out at the end of this game. And like you said, he knew that this was a game that every point mattered because of the weather, and like just get the points as you can get it, and that made the difference.
Yeah, let's move on, Kyle. Not a ton of great close games to talk about, but let's go Chiefs Browns. Mostly because I want to talk about. I mean, the game is the game. We'll get into that, but like. The interesting thing is, so the Chiefs are up 14 points, kind of just trying to run out the clock. They go for it on 4th down. Mahomes gets hit, hurts his ankle. That obviously massively changes this team. Now, and especially when, there's a few teams like this, they have 2 games, 2 short weeks in a row. They play on Saturday and then they play on Wednesday, which is, not the best time to have your star quarterback get injured, right? So we'll see. I mean, he might play hurt. He might have to sit out these games. I think if it was a playoff game, he would play. But like, that's something that for the Chiefs, who we feel like probably had the 1 seed locked up. If they, it's no guaranteed games. You play Houston and Pittsburgh the next 2 games, and even Denver the final game of the season. So I don't, who knows what happens.
Yeah. No, it's definitely an interesting element to this game now. I mean, it changes everything, obviously, for the Chiefs to end the season because they may lose the 1 seed off of this. But, like, obviously, Mahomes' health is more important than the 1 seed at this point. So you want him to be healthy. I'm pretty shocked, honestly, because, like, that it looks so much worse when I saw it. Like, that was a nasty, nasty tackle that he took. It was a brutal hit. Just the way he bent and all that. Like, I was like, they said his ankle's not broken. I was pretty surprised. Like, I was thinking, wow, if that ends this season, then I mean, that's the kind of injury that could have taken him into next season, even too. Like, I was expecting the worst at a certain point for that play, but it seems like he's going to be okay for the playoffs at least. This was not his best performance, but like, I thought they did enough. I thought the defense returned to form. But yeah, it's just going to be about getting him healthy, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Outside of that, I have to say, I thought Mahomes did some really nice things. He was very inconsistent in this game. Why can't he hit a deep ball anymore? What happened here? Like, he's throwing he's missing every deep shot, it seems like.
Yeah, it's like he's surprised that like teams actually opened it up for him, and it's like he's just like overthrowing it now. It's weird. It is very weird. But he's also had a few this season that it's like his guys aren't keeping his feet in bounds. Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, you could say his name. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think there have definitely been some interesting ones with those, but like it's kind of what we said. Like I still think he's playing really well. I still think he's an elite quarterback this season, but it hasn't been the Patrick Mahomes we're used to seeing all the time, man. I don't know if this is just like saving our best stuff for the playoffs. If it's, I don't know what it is, but like objectively, like Josh Allen has been a significantly better player than him this season.
Yeah. But again, no one's going to count out Mahomes when it gets to the postseason, right? We did the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady thing for how many years, right? It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, this is the 06 Colts. If Josh Allen can do it, then it changes the narrative, and like people will call him the best player in football. But like he has to prove that he can go and do it.
Yeah, a little different because Mahomes has like multiple MVPs already, because that was a factor. But regardless, no comparison is perfect. You are correct. Speaking of not perfect, Jameis Winston in this game was not perfect. Kyle, he got benched for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, which should be illegal. Yeah, I don't care how bad Jameis Winston is playing. You put him out there anyway.
Yeah, that it didn't help that much either. So
No.
Not like Dorian Thompson-Robinson played all that well. Yeah, I don't know. It was a bad performance, I would say, for Cleveland. They did not look very good. Good return to form for Kansas City's defense. I thought, how important is the draft? I thought guys like Trent McDuffie was terrific in this game. I thought George Karlaftis was a monster in this game in the backfield. I thought they did some really good things. And I thought the defense played well and looked a lot better than we had. I mean, Jerry Jeudy still had his numbers, but at the same time, like they stopped a lot of drives and created turnovers. So I thought that was a good performance for the Kansas City this week.
Yeah, how about Jerry Jeudy, right? I mean, we all said, like, I don't know about that contract. He's been the bright spot of this team.
He's lived up to it so far. I mean, he's had a terrific year, honestly. He's 4th in receiving yards.
Yeah, crazy. Kyle, the Browns, Browns can be added to the list of teams who outgained the Kansas City Chiefs and still lost to them. Hurts when you lose the turnover battle 6-0. That makes it tough.
Yeah, they outgained the Kansas City Chiefs. I have
in terms of yards per
yards.
play.
Oh, yards per play. Yeah, fair. 6-0 is not good. That's a hot take.
That's got to be the worst of the year, right?
I would be amazed if someone was worse than that.
Yeah, unbelievable. Incredible. Please tell me Jameis Winston's starting next week. I'm going to be upset if he's not.
I hope he's starting next year.
Yeah. I mean, I will say though, this kind of has to end to like, should Jameis be a starter, right? Or no, because he's going to throw for 500 yards next week.
Listen, Jameis is going to give it, then he's going to take it away.
Mm-hmm.
I want Jameis Winston starting next season. You're already stuck with a bad contract at quarterback. You're probably not going to be good next year. Just put the quarterback who's the best on your team right now.
Yeah. I don't disagree. He's playing the Bengals next week. Oh, he's going to throw 500 yards easily.
Oh yeah, he's going off.
Kyle, let's move on. Let's go to. So we have 5 games left. We can go to your team. Why not, Kyle? I watched very little of this game because I was paying attention to the other games. So I'll give you the floor. You could do your Patriots talk first. Well, what are your thoughts on your team? Looking by the score, maybe not a great game.
Not a great game. They started this game with a pretty good first drive. Then there was a penalty there was an offensive holding that moved them back to the 43-yard line. And then they missed the field goal. And then the Cardinals made a field goal. And then that was basically it. I mean, they scored a touchdown later. And then I don't know. Drake May was 10 of 10 in the first half for 71 yards. And we had 3 points. There's not very often that you see 3 points scored when your quarterback has not thrown an incomplete pass. We are at the point like Vidarian Lowe has been on my team for 2 years, and I hope to never see him play football again. He is one of the worst football players I've seen consistently get snaps on an NFL team. And like, I've never seen a guy just consistently like be a left tackle. And there are just highlights of him not blocking people. Like he doesn't touch the person off the line of scrimmage. It happened multiple times in this game, and I've seen it more than like 5 times over the last 2 seasons. I don't know. But no, I mean, this was a good performance for the Cardinals offense. They needed a return to form. They got the defense that they needed. There are basically 5 guys on this Patriots team I want to see back next season, and then everybody else can be replaced.
Who are the 5? It's Drake May, Ramondre Stevenson.
No, Drake May, Christian Gonzalez. Demario Douglas can stay, even though he did fumble today, but it didn't get recovered. But I think he's shown enough of a secondary receiver option. Drake May, Christian Gonzalez, those are our best 2 players by far. Those are the only 2 elite players. Christian Gonzalez is still a monster. Had a big pass breakup in this game. And then I'll bring back Keon White for another season, but we need more pass rushing help. And then I'll bring back Ramondre and Hunter Henry. Why not? Outside of that, everybody else can go. Everybody else.
What about Austin Hooper?
No. Oh, wait, Michael Onyenwu. So you could take one of those 2 guys off and put Michael Onyenwu in.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that is it's a tough time. I mean, they're in a deep rebuild here. Is it? You want to go one and done with your coach? Oh, I mean, I do. Christian Barmore also.
Yeah, Barmore can stay too. I forgot about him. Mm-hmm. He obviously with the everything.
There's just so many good Patriots players. Hard to keep track of them all.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to, but at the same time, like, I don't think they will fire him after 1 season with this roster. So, but there's just too many issues. They got to change offensive. I mean, they may change both coordinators at the end of the season, honestly. But no, I mean, this game should be talked about from Arizona's perspective, because like this is a team that needed this performance, I think, to kind of get back on the right foot. They're 7-7 now. And while those 2 Seahawks losses sting, like it's a real bummer. Like they're not out of it yet. They're not out of the woods yet. They still need a lot to go their way, but there is a path for them.
Yeah, they don't need that much help if they went out. And their schedule isn't that difficult. I mean, like the game is going to be in 2 weeks to play the Rams, and that's like their way in. Like, they would need. I think they would need Seattle to go 1-2, which seems tough. But Seattle plays Minnesota and they play the Rams, so like it's possible. Again, all you can do now is take care of business to play the Panthers next week. So but the Cardinals look good in this game.
Yeah, I mean, they look good. This was a really, really bad defense. Trey McBride, I didn't realize he didn't have a touchdown this season, which is crazy because I think he has the most receptions now for a guy without a touchdown. He's at 89 catches, 938 yards, and 0 touchdowns. So we got to fix that next week for sure.
Yeah, that's especially like tight ends are like known for like being like red zone targets.
Yeah, it is bizarre.
Yeah, very weird. Let's move on. 4 games left to talk about. Well, I mean, the Jaguars was close. So I guess we can go here. Devontae Adams was amazing in this game to the point where like it makes you wonder where was this all season, because Rodgers had 289 passing yards. Adams had 198 of them, along with 2 touchdowns, and nearly had another one. The Jets did something weird where like they were at the Jaguars 1 yard line, and they could have just ran out the clock, but instead decided to score a touchdown with a minute left, which gave the Jaguars a chance to potentially win the game. Now, Mac Jones proceeded to throw a ball directly at a Jets player, Sauce Gardner, but there was just a weird thing that happened in this game. But yeah, I mean, Mac Jones was incredible in this one. He was throwing picks. He was running the ball like he's Lamar Jackson and doing weird celebrations that I think I'm too old to understand what they mean. It was what a performance by Mac Jones.
Yeah. He looked more like a competent backup in this game.
He did. I thought so too.
Except for throwing the ball right to Sauce Gardner. But yeah, I mean, he is a backup still. But yeah, I mean, like he got the ball to his playmakers. Brian Thomas Jr. had a big game this one. But yeah, I mean, it's the whole Jets thing too. It was all in the second half. Like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, like, wait, we know how to play football together. Why don't we just do this? And then all of a sudden, the second half, those two just went crazy. And the Jaguars couldn't stop it, obviously. So yeah, big win or not really a big win. The season's over, but I guess a good performance for the Jets. Good for you. And, good to get this win, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I mean, if they're going to bring it back next year, I mean, you want to see, I think this is why it's frustrating. Cause like you see Adams play this well and Rodgers played this. I mean, and Rodgers, I think has played well this season. I don't know. Rodgers has been all right this season. He hasn't been the biggest problem. No. We have a super chat. Travis Hunter to the Patriots or trenches. Kyle, what do you think?
Either.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we could take any player in. I mean, the thing is for the Patriots is like, if they're going to draft a receiver, have a plan for offensive line. If you're going to draft offensive line, have a plan for an elite receiver. You got to figure it out either way.
The Patriots should not be drafting for need at this point.
Yeah, you need 17 starters. I just said you can keep 5. You need 17 more new ones that are good. So you got a long way to go. Drake May looks good though.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Any other thoughts on this game?
Oh gosh, no, we're good.
No, we can move on. We covered it. We that's all we really needed. Brian Thomas Jr. very good. Is he the best rookie wide receiver this year?
Yeah, I mean he has to be. Like he's had the best season for sure. Like I still
especially
think
when you factor in the turmoil around the Jaguars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's been really good. Like I still think Neighbors is more talented, honestly, but like I think Brian Thomas Jr. has had the best season by far. He's looked very good.
Yeah. Let's go to 3 games left. We can power through these 3. First, Ravens Giants. Who Kyle. Tim Boyle, he's back. Tim Boyle sighting. You run from it, dread from well, I screwed up the quote, but Tim Boyle always arrives, comes in, and 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So a good game for him.
Yeah. So he is at 4 touchdowns and 12 interceptions for his career in the National Football League. That goes along with his 1 touchdown and 13 interceptions in college, although they don't have his Eastern Kentucky stats up there, which is a crime. Yeah, I mean, this guy is just unbelievable. I hope he's just always around the NFL for some reason.
Well, your hope has come true. I mean, somehow it happened. We have Joe going on the record to say that I did not pay for the plane. Did I miss something? What was the plane?
I don't know. I missed this too, apparently.
Okay. Not paying. I missed that, but I don't know. Now I think Joe did pay for a plane.
Yeah. It sounds like something someone would buy a plane would say.
Yeah, I mean, you have money for a super chat. You probably have money for a plane too.
Yeah, exactly. So, this game was over by halftime.
This game was over before it began.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson was amazing. They did exactly what I wanted them to do, though. They didn't put a lot of carries on Derrick Henry in this game, and I wanted them to drop back and throw the ball a bunch with Lamar and just get this passing game going again. And they did. They did exactly what they had to do. They looked good. And then everything else except for Malik Neighbors on the Giants was bad. So, yeah. I
guess Joe's clarifying. There was another plane that flew over the stadium saying fire everybody. Gotcha. Yeah, that's not ideal. Kyle, one more Tim Boyle stat I have to throw at you. This is his 11th game that he's thrown a pass in. his team's record is 0-11. They've never won a game where he's thrown a pass. Not even like he's never even gotten in garbage time when his team was already like winning. Like he has a couple times, but he didn't throw a pass in those games. Never thrown a pass in a victory in the NFL.
Yeah, that happens. He's not a very good quarterback. I guess that's the conclusion. What do you think this guy cooks at a barbecue that just he has to like serve cocaine or something? Like it's just insane.
There's got to be something. Maybe he's like makes like I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Probably like really good like cook. Makes really great barbecues.
I think I make this joke every time, but he's got to be like the coolest hang. This guy has to be like a great golfer or something. Like there's something about this guy. I need to meet him and just ask like, what's your secret? How did you do this? This is networking 101. I think he should do like a TED Talk, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. Also, Josh Johnson got in this game. I mean, talk about the two like you know, yeah, what a game. Lamar Jackson was amazing. We got to talk about him. 290 yards on 25 attempts, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Some of these throws down the field, like a couple of these deep Bateman passes. I know it's the Giants and they stink, but like, you know, it's again, I still think, well, I still am now leaning Josh Allen for the MVP. I still think Lamar is right there behind him.
Yeah, I mean it's 1 and 2 at this point. Lamar's been fantastic, and yeah, I mean it seems like it's going to come down to the tie goes to the guy who wins more, which you know I don't love, but at the same time, if it's close enough, I'm okay with giving the guy that wins more. But I do think Lamar's been a little more consistently better this season.
Yeah, the issue is like Allen's bad games happened early in the year. Like if that Bills Ravens game happened like next week instead of early in the season, like Lamar would win it.
Yeah, or that Bills Texans game, right? Like those were the two. I mean, those were worse than any Lamar's games this season.
Yeah, you know, so I agree. Lamar's very good. Hey, Ravens, if they can get a Super Bowl, they won't care.
Yeah, I mean that's all it takes. But we just need to see these performances a little more consistently. Like the defense obviously played well in this game, but like I'm not evaluating this defense on this game. Like Tommy DeVito and Tim Boyle, like. You know, you may see better quarterbacks. Arch Manning could play better than both of these guys. He's barely played in college.
Yeah, let's move on. 2 games left. Let's go Bengals Titans. This was another game where we had a player drop the ball at the 1-yard line. This probably is the end of the Will Levis era. Ends up going 8 for 12. So we only had 1 pass that was an incompletion because he had 3 interceptions here as well. They put in Mason Rudolph. Didn't get that much better here. Was a little better. And again, if you can't light up this Bengals defense, what are we doing here? Burrow turned the ball over a couple times. Wasn't his strongest game, but was still a good performance. And then Jamar Chase ended up with 94 yards. D Higgins had a really nice catch here as well. Ends with 88 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, I mean, again, game that went kind of as expected.
Yeah. I mean, it really did. I mean, the shocking thing was that there was 10 turnovers in this game, and I think there was only 1 defensive touchdown, and yet there was how many points is this? 40. I can't do math fast. 64 is that the right number?
Yep, got it. Mm-hmm.
Look at that. 64 points, only 1 defensive touchdown, and 10 turnovers. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was something. Had the Texans played a normal game, or excuse me, had the Titans played a normal game this season?
No, this is a normal team. I mean, if your quarterback's just going to throw the ball to the other team, then there's no such thing as a normal game. No. So
even like their blowout when they've gotten blown, like when they got blown up by the Lions, even that was like in a weird way where they kept giving the Lions short fields.
I mean, that Bears game week 1 basically set the trend for that set the tone for the entire season. If
it really did.
Like that. That is that every game after that has resembled that Bears game in some capacity. Not all of it is close, but like we have seen elements of that Bears Titans game in every Titans game this season.
Yeah, we could have ended their season after that. We got it. We understood it.
Honestly, what a poetic way to do. That would be a great NFL thing. Like just like a season where one team is just eliminated after each week and we have to vote on it. And just like they played that Will Levis highlight and it's like Titans, you're out.
Yeah, I think. Well, but then you have to do a committee, and then it's going to be rigged, and it's just a whole thing.
Yeah, college football playoff style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, I do like the idea though of eliminating teams. I think we need to get on that.
Pro relegate? Are you a promotion relegation guy?
Not really, just because I feel like as a Buccaneers fan, I think that it would probably not be good. Historically, we've been great. We've been very spoiled this past 5 years or so. But like before that, like I don't want to see my team get relegated.
No, the NFL doesn't need promotion relegation. I think basketball actually could use it, but
Yeah,
that's a conversation for another day.
I could see that. But final game left: Cowboys Panthers. Kyle, we finally believed in the Panthers. We even had comments saying, "Oh, finally, you guys picked the Panthers, first time ever." And this is why we don't pick the Panthers, because they stink.
There's a reason I gave you this game first. Like,
yeah,
I just think the narrative we had for both of these teams was like we were crapping on the Cowboys because they barely beat the Giants, but we were giving credit to the Panthers for almost beating the Giants. Like,
did they? Yeah, they lost that game, right? Yeah. Oh, no, they won that game. They won that game in overtime.
Oh yeah, barely beating the Giants.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but your point is true. We blame the Cowboys for barely beating the Giants, but we credit the Panthers for barely beating the Giants.
Yeah, it's two different caliber teams. Cooper Rush, like I don't actually think he played. I mean, he had some good moments in this game, but that first drive where they scored, like he had 3 or 4 throws in that drive that like it felt like he just threw the ball in the air towards CD Lamb, and it's like CD Lamb just adjusted to make the catch. It's like maybe that's not the worst strategy because he's CD Lamb, but it was so bizarre seeing it. He had a couple good plays in this game though. Rico Dowdle has been, I think, the biggest part of this offense playing a little bit better later in the season. And like I said, I think the defense for this team has played better later in the season. I mean, it's not shocking to say Micah Parsons comes back and this defense is better. Like that's not shocking. So it's just it has definitely galvanized this group a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys defense does look better. I mean, and you're right, where it's like sometimes just things are simple. It's like the Cowboys have Micah Parsons, they have CeeDee Lamb. Like the Panthers don't have those guys. Like, sure, there's a lot of issues on both these teams, but that matters. I think probably the biggest storyline is the Bryce Young thing. Obviously, it was very fun seeing him, play very well. This was definitely a disappointing performance. The numbers don't look horrible, but part of that was there was like a 70-yard blown coverage touchdown that kind of helped inflate the numbers. So I think I'm going to say, like, listen, he's been playing better. Like, Bryce Young was not going to just never have a bad game. Like, Jalen Hurts had a bad game last week, right? Like, this is going to happen. I think we still need to, we still have 3 games left to evaluate it. I'm not going to panic after this.
No, that would be unfair. This isn't a one game on off thing. He's got games against the Cardinals and Falcons. He should play better in those games. This was a defense that, like I said, had played better later in the season that he went against, and he didn't get any help from his running game either. I'm not going to overreact to it. I still think the way he's played the second half of the season has given him a chance to at least compete for the job next year. Whether he wins it or not, that's up to him. But I think he gets another chance to compete for the job.
Yeah. Kyle, let me know where you can find us on Twitter before we head up.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin. And make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Of course, you've like audio only podcast. Anywhere you get your podcast, search On the Sideline Podcast. It should be available there. Yeah, Kyle, that's it. Any final thoughts, or are we ready to get out of here?
No, we can go. It's 1:15 in the morning East Coast time.
Yes, we got to get to bed. Thanks to everybody for staying up on the East Coast to watch with us live, or if you're watching after the fact or in a different time zone, we appreciate you too. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.